Did I... Oh, hello. How are you? Wait, you don't have a microphone? Wait, you can't hear me? Um, like I do believe that the no, I believe that the diseases are real, but people are using it to control the masses because it was made in a laboratory.
Oh, I think I just figured out my sound. 100%, 100%. Yeah, I believe it's a real virus, but I mean, we've had hundreds of real viruses survive.
Yeah.
And we've never shut down, the whole world's economies for a virus
Yeah.
that we pretty much can't stop, right?
Yeah, they do it just because they want control. Have you ever heard the phrase, when everything you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail?
That's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah.
All right.
That's a very interesting way to look
Thanks. It is true though, because if you have the power that the governments have, then that's basically, you are in the situation where you have only a hammer, right? Because people don't need the government to be prosperous, right? The only thing governments would do to be good would to protect the citizens from other governments, and
I guess some level of like regulation, so there's not one dude who's just monopolizing everything, and to an extent they'll try to sort of limit it. Not that works.
Yeah, that's what it doesn't actually work, because usually when the governments claim to want to prevent that from happening, what they basically do is to create that instead, right? Because if when the government try to regulate the economy, what usually happens is that they create a few people on the top and then the masses at the bottom.
Yeah.
And usually what they do that is because they are on the top, right? And they're usually funded by people who are also on the top. And if the government wasn't around, either another government would come in and create the same system, or they would be less. People would be more equal, if that makes sense.
Yep. Well, and I like what you touched before. You were saying, the government basically just having a hammer and being its only tools. But then I was looking into it the other day, and it goes, well, it's like, the average prime minister sort of paid around like $500,000 a year. I know I'm in New Zealand, so our New Zealand prime minister is on around $500,000 a year. So, but then you've got guys like Bill Gates, who have hundreds of billions of dollars, basically could buy our entire country multiple times over, well, our current GDP. And these are the guys who are having way too much influence. When the World Health Organization is making the COVID laws, and if you're a government that's part of the World Health Organization, you have to obey them, right? So I don't think it's governments making these choices. But I think it's far more likely to come from above, and people just agree with paychecks, right? If you only paid $500,000 a year, why would you disagree with a guy who's basically funding your country for billions of dollars? You wouldn't disagree with them. It would make
exactly
sense.
Right. And that's the problem, is because people would just use the government to because the government exists, right? And then the people use the government to like bypass the market and just get anything for free, or get it for less prices, because they don't have to compete with, they don't have any other people around to to compete with. Like, they basically can take all the opposition, all the competitors, and then put them away, and then the government is going to put them on the top of everything, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Where are you? Are you in South Africa? No, that's
I was in South Africa last year, but I'm going to move back to South Africa like when I get into university, because I had like bad grades. I didn't get into university this year, so I had to like improve some of my grades so I can get into university, and I will be able to get into university, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Oh, well, I'm glad there's people out there thinking about it like this.
I agree.
I found a few people that that are on this sort of track as well. And I was talking to a guy from India the other week, just on this, and he was saying how they've done this, they're really pushing at the moment in this Western media about how there's, the big second wave in India happening. And so I was talking to him about it, and I was saying, how do you feel about it? And he was saying, well, firstly, the second wave started basically right when they released the vaccine. They started the vaccine rollout, and about 3 weeks later, the second wave starts. Awfully convenient. And then you're saying they're shutting down a lot of these, poorer places like the Mumbai, New Delhi, a lot of these markets. We have a lot of, poverty and people begging for food. Now they've closed it all down. You've got people now just starving, dying of starvation, because there's just no way that the government could ever supply for all these people. The only way they were surviving before was what little work they could get. Now they're told to stay inside, which a lot of them don't have houses. Hey, stay at home, eat your own food. A lot of them don't have food. And now there's like hundreds of thousands of people dying just of starvation, of malnourishment, not having access to doctors and things because they're told to stay inside.
Yeah,
so it's just
it's almost like it doesn't really help, because I know in South Africa, what happened was that like crime went up. Like it's already high, but it went even higher than it was like in the past, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then what also happened was the people were like had like hard time to like earn a living. Like they were harder time to earn living, so they like shut all the economy, right? I was like with my classmate, because I was living in a school residence area, right, when I was living in South Africa, right? So therefore, like we had to go and buy food, because we were not allowed to go outside our homes unless we're gonna buy food, right? So we went outside, right, and then we bought food, me and this chick from my school. And when we were walking the streets of Cape Town, like the streets of Cape Town in the middle of the day were completely empty. There was no one there.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And the government are just like fucking up everything, right? Because like the corona like hits Africa really hard. Basically, almost. I mean, like our government hit the country pretty hard, but then the disease is like made. It was first, like both these things together, like made it even worse, and just the government. Like the country like stopped developing, and then just went backwards. But that's what the government already did. It's not the COVID just did it more, or the COVID regulations did it more, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
I agree 100%.
And it's instilled all these more forms of, control and everything. I mean, Japan, South Korea, neither of them had lockdowns. Both of them did significantly better than the neighboring countries, or all of these Western countries with no lockdown.
Fun fact: there's actually one Western country that didn't have lockdown. Want to know what that is?
Sweden.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they didn't do too bad. I mean, they did a little bit worse than some of the neighboring countries, Finland, Norway, but not significantly more. And they have it, and for one of the the worst pandemics in history, well, like that's what they're trying to like push it as. Nothing. 90% of the deaths were over the age of 60. 96% were over the 96% were over the age of 60. 90% were over the age of 70. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean it's it's killing everyone fairly? No, clearly not. Does it mean it's targeting old people? No, of course not. It's just targeting people with weaker immune systems, which is generally older people.
That makes perfect sense to me.
Crazy world, man.
Indeed, like it's almost like we don't really need any form of like work of fiction, because the reality is like so weird already. That's like it's basically the same thing at this point. It's actually kind of funny.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, it's like we closed down the whole economy for healthy young people, when it's like we could have easily just, shut down places, shut down rest homes, hospitals, keep them, very strict. And why shut down a whole economy? Why keep kids out of school? It makes no sense. Why have kids wearing masks when it pretty much doesn't affect kids?
Yeah, and I'm also very worried about the vaccine. I'm worried about that too.
Yeah, same. Same. They still can't tell us where it came from. I still think it came from a lab, but they're still trying to blame it on this. Someone ate a bat, but they still can't prove it. They can't find the origin, but yet they can tell us. But yet they can make 3 or 4 different vaccines for it. Makes no sense. can't tell us where it came from, but you can tell us how it's sold.
I do think I have a bit
Convenient. Very
but
convenient.
didn't it come from a lab though?
Well, it's unproven where it's from. They don't know. And I mean, to me, it's like, well, so under that Dr. Fauci, when he was under Obama, they were giving millions of dollars to the epidemiology lab in Wuhan.
Oh, that's
Like,
interesting. That's information that definitely needs to get out there.
it needs to get out there. It needs to get out there really bad.
100%.
Exactly.
Did you?
I mean,
Like
beyond a coincidence.
I actually believe that if people, if they want to stop people from dying, then none of this stopped people from dying. It just made like younger people die more. It just like redistributed the die. It's so dumb. Like
yeah, exactly.
Big.
I agree.
Because did you like know the one thing that's like kind of really awful that happened? Like, but know what the South African government said? It was like really awful. Want to know what that was during lockdown?
What was that?
The South African government literally said that, you know what, we are not going to like give people. We're not gonna give people like we're not if you need like any form of like help because of the lockdown, right? We are not going to live. I'm not kidding. They said we're not going to give any aid to companies that are the primary workforce or is primarily owned by minorities.
Wow, that's wow. Did they explain this? Was this the...
Well, they just said that
Wow.
if they were primarily owned by minorities, then they should have thought about this before they were primary minority owned, and they said they want to make it more equal, and giving it to just companies owned by minorities would give disproportionately more to minorities for some fucking reason, which is like insane. Like this is like the most like I mean like.
It's
like I was like, because
I mean, I don't mind Trump.
No, go on.
I was gonna, yeah. Well, I like. Sorry, yeah. I don't mind Trump, but it's like that's dumber than what Trump would say. You know, like significantly dumber. Wow.
Yeah, 100%. Right.
So
I actually saw that the South African government, like, because when I was like before I was born, right? Because I was born in the 90s, right? My parents actually thought that the South African government in the future were going to be, well, different to the one before I was born. Well, apparently not. So that's like unfortunate.
Yeah, apparently not.
Which is it's absolutely it's absolutely ridiculous. Wait, are you on Discord?
I should be. Nah, I'm not on Discord. I don't have any social media. I should get something.
Yeah, because if you want to, I do have.
Nah, not anything.
What do you say?
Oh, no, keep going. Yeah,
oh, because I do have a Discord server, and I can invite you if you want to.
Yeah, what is it?
Yeah, it's I posted there. You can screenshot it and then type it down, or you save the link to like a Word document.
Yeah.
Perfect. But if you don't mind me asking, because I know that South Africa and like New Zealand like have like, I mean, like it's both countries that used to be like part of the British Empire, and I need to because like, I know that on my family, right? I know that my mother's side of family are mainly from Sweden and Cyprus, and my dad's side of the family is mainly from Scotland. How about for you?
All my family's pretty much from Holland or Germany.
Well, that's pretty cool. Actually, a little bit of my mother's ancestry is also from Germany, so I got that in my too. And as in South Africa, a lot of people ancestry is partly from Holland too, so that's pretty interesting. Because I actually heard that weren't there a lot of people in your country whose ancestors came from Croatia or from like Scotland?
I definitely know a lot of Dutch and Germans. Yeah, a lot of I haven't heard of Croatian too often.
Yeah, that
I do know. Yeah,
because like I actually
a lot of English.
Oh yeah, that's so true. In South Africa, there's a lot of English. Like, English is like so many, but well, being part of the British Empire is like pretty much explains why that's the case. But it's still interesting. I just find like ancestry to be like to be very. There's like my biggest interest for me at least.
Ancestry. Oh yeah. Yeah, same. Well, I definitely like knowing the history behind people and
yeah. It is.
Why they are who they are. Oh, good luck to you, man. I mean, I'm glad to hear people. Yeah. Thinking it, not just blindly sort of following and saying yes to everything.
Yeah, no, I was always like known to keep like a critical mind about stuff, and like I never.
Good.
Yeah, it's just like when someone tells me something, right? Then, well, you have doubt when people talk, and you shouldn't blindly believe it and everything people say because they might like have an agenda. Like, did you know that Taiwan actually had the information about the COVID, but the World Health Organization, they were like, no, we're not gonna do anything with that because we don't want to make the CCP angry.
No one wants to make CCP angry. Yuck! Wow.
Don't you like don't you like have a because I heard in Australasia, you know what I mean with the Australasia, right? Yeah, like I heard that the CCP or like have like too much influence in their region. Is that like true? Or is it like a growing problem?
Yep.
Ugh, that's terrible.
Yep, but New Zealand, Australia made a firm stance against China, and then New Zealand sort of said, "Oh, Australia, don't do that. We need to keep trade."
But like,
going.
why would?
And so New Zealand,
like what?
Yeah, our government.
Oh my god, your government is so awful. Like, I don't like your government. Like, I don't want to think it's like, because like, why would you? Like, you don't need trade with like an organization. You don't need trade with China because like China, they are like China. They, for example, they don't like because they're communists. They're very hostile towards markets. If that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. And the more we trade with them, the less we're going to be able to trade with anyone else. The more restrictions going to put on us, more trade agreements we're going to have to, abide by. But now our whole government, I mean, our prime minister at the moment is like a lady in her late 30s that's never had a real job, doesn't understand business, and she, just straight away put our country in lockdown, lock people inside their houses and stuff. When it's like we're an island, we're a little island in the middle of nowhere. Just stop letting people in the country, and then there can be no COVID. Oh no, but we want to play sports and we want to have sports teams, and so they keep letting people in the country, and then we keep getting COVID, and so we keep having to go on lockdowns, keep having to shut down.
Like it would be.
Makes no sense.
I remember that Namibia when South Africa got the COVID, Namibia was kind of like nobody can enter or leave the country until later because of COVID. That's what Namibia did, which was a good thing, right? Nobody could go there because they didn't want to spread to come. Well, it's kind of hard to spread disease in a country that is basically a desert, but but still, it was a very good move. And it was some people that were in South Africa, in Namibia, they were like, who were from South Africa, like, no, we can't get back to South Africa, right? So they had to like wait for a while before they could go back to South Africa. Kind of interesting.
It was, yeah. No, it's very strange, man. Very strange. But we can't cure poverty. We can't cure anything except but a flu that affects old white people. Oh, yep. We better shut down the whole world for that.
Like crazy. It's so interesting because like because it's so funny that like terms terms when it comes to it's kind of hard. I usually have to talk from the beginning. You know about the color theory? It was like the color theory where a person, right? He basically tried to categorize people into like by race into like different colors, if that makes sense. Remember? Yeah. He basically used the term black, white, red, yellow, and brown to like classify people, right? And then And then like the color theory was like debunked. You know about that, right?
I'm reading about it now. Yeah, just opened it. Yeah.
I don't know if it's called color
Okay.
theory. I just call it that because it's like simple. So
It did it well. Color theory came up.
really,
Yeah.
well, that's interesting, right? But fun fact is that like because I'm very interested in like genetics and ancestry and anthropology and stuff like that, like the color theory like was like debunked before before like we were like even born, right? But like the terms such as that the color theory like suggested, such as white and brown, to referring to people by race, have like been debunked, but like the terms are still used for like reasons. I do think they have like some sort of utility, but like barely. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because if you like terms, use terms such as, for example, Germanic ancestry, right? Like that would be an accurate thing because, according to the anthropological science, the Germanic like people is like an accurate genetic classifier of people, while terms like white is not. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
No, that does make sense. Yeah.
And that's like I find it kind of important to like to like spread the word about that because it's very interesting that people know about like reality. But I think that you I know you can relate to that because isn't that what you do as well? Like you opened with like talking about the COVID stuff, which is very good. And I really appreciate that because you are correct about that. So you're like on the same page as me that like I want to like spread awareness about like
Definitely. I feel like that's the biggest thing in the world right now. I used to talk to people a lot about 9/11 and things like that, but now COVID is the big one. But
that's good.
No, I spent a long time.
No, it's very good that you do that because I basically do the same thing. But my general like focus of area is basically when it comes to like ancestry and genetics and what people, because I find it to be very important because people's ignorance about the topics is exploited to control and abuse people, which is like bad. So therefore, spreading the truth about this.
It's a big topic right now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you know, a white person is like demonized by everyone right now, right? But then it's like, you know, yeah, exactly. What's the definition of a white person?
Right.
You know, because no one's just one race. No one's 100%. Well, not many. 100% this or 100% that. We're all mixed. So what is a, you know, I'm sure if you went in my genealogy somewhere, there would be, you know, some minority race. So am I not white anymore?
Well, as I've been like suggesting to the color theory, like that's been debunked. So technically, what race people are according to the colors, like white or brown, technically nobody is white or brown actually. But so technically, if you are German ancestry and Dutch ancestry, if you combine all the people in your country that are that way, I think that would be like a minority. And the same thing for me, right? How many people in South Africa are of German ancestry, right? Even if we take only white population, that would still be like not all of them, right? And when it goes to like the Greek Cypriot or the Scandinavian and Scottish part, that's also a minority. So technically, if you go to places, so technically you would, and I would technically still be a minority regardless, if that makes sense. Because like the reality is that is that all the different like ethnicities are like they are different. So technically we are all mixed because like if you are part Dutch or part German, you are technically mixed, and I'm also mixed because I'm part German and part Scottish. That's also like a mixture. It's just that people don't call it a mixture because according to the color theory, which was debunked before I was born, it's like the same race, which is not, because like science knows that it's different, because whenever a population exists, right, then it separates, right, because of genetic drift, they're going to become different, right? And just because they have the same skin tone, that doesn't mean that they're the same. For example, like if we take like a Rohingya, for example, they are Indo-Europeans just like us. But if we take, for example, a Basque, they're not, right? So technically we're the same race as the Rohingya and not the Basque. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
And that's like what.
Interesting.
Thanks.
Okay.
I do appreciate it. Interesting, because like this is a very interesting topic, because I'm like worried I might be bad at explaining something in an interesting way, and because of that, people might find it uninteresting. But I'm happy that I'm able to present it in a good way, and you are too, by the way, because I do. You're very good at presenting things in a way that makes it interesting. Does that make sense?
Thanks. Yeah. Well, I've tried to explain to a lot of people, I guess now, and a lot of people, if you put too many words in, they'll just shut down and they don't want to listen, and oh, now you're just talking crazy. So you do have to carefully sort of pick how you word things. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's very important these days. No, No, what you're saying is interesting. It's good. Yeah, anyone who thinks out the box is interesting.
Yeah, I read it too, because like I have like this idea, if you want to hear it. Like I do think it's like very fundamental to not just human nature, but nature in general, for like people to like make sure that they're to like want to make sure that the DNA exists in the future as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yep. Yeah, that's why we have kids and stuff, I guess.
And I think it's so weird, because like if you look at the media, right, they seem to like have pathologized like that natural instinct with like every human organism. It's only the Western world have done that. Like that's like never been like normal in any form of like not just only human, but like civilization or just existence on this planet before.
Yeah,
it is weird. It is interesting, but because it's funny, because like I said before that it's very important why I kept saying that the cult here was debunked before I was even born, right? So therefore we know that we would have been technically mixed before we were born, right? And the knowledge about that would have existed before you were born. And then people are still using the term white as a form of demonization of completely arbitrary ethnicities, right? Because I know that because they use the term white as a label for people of Middle Eastern descent, right? When they want to, right? But they don't call like Jews and Arabs white when they want to pitch those people against those of European descent. Does that make sense? It's like divide and rule.
It is, yeah.
And that is.
So it's like
no, go on.
Well, yeah. So it's like these terms are almost getting like brought back purely to just cause separation and cause division. Have people
that's all true.
Sort of demonize each
other.
That
is so true, right? Because if people were to, if for example, if a government in Europe, if someone want to media or like want to demonize like the Europeans, right? They will just call them white supremacists or use racist or use like whatever, when they are not, right?
Yeah.
And then because of all the because of like they're using immigration from the Middle East to like keep the richest, right? And then they say, oh, you're white supremacist, you don't like Middle East immigration, right? And then the people will in South Africa call a Lebanese person a white supremacist because they don't want to be discriminated against for being in the white category. You know what I'm saying? It's like they use the same term because like the people in the Middle East, they're either used to as victims or as perpetrators, but they are only used, if that makes sense. I mean, like technically, Cyprus is from the Middle East, right? So, by the same people who use the term whiteness and all that, what would they call me white or not? You know what I'm saying?
Well, exactly. Well, yeah. And I mean, I was talking to a guy from Russia the other day, and it's like, are Russians white? Because technically, you've got one side of Russia that's borderline in Asia, connected to China, and you've got the complete other, the Dagestan, all these places that are basically part of the Middle East, and it's like, well, so are you Russian? Are you white? Or are you Middle Eastern?
Well, technically, the term Middle Eastern from a racial category doesn't make that much sense because the people in the Middle East, like they are if you go to the northern part, like Caucasus, they're like the Caucasonic, right? And they are very much related to Indo-Europeans because Indo-Europeans' homeland is close to there, and then it like spread out, right? And then if you go to middle of the Middle East, you have for example, Semites, right? And then there were like other Indo-Europeans, so that Anatolians, and then like Iranians who came in, right? And then Turkic people came in all the way from Asia, right? So technically, all the Middle Eastern populations are like different races. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but then I do like that as we're talking about races, we're saying the actual race, you know, the actual country of origin. Neither of us are saying, you know, oh, white people from here, you know, it's just an unnecessary term. There's no reason to bring a color
exactly,
into it.
right?
Yeah.
Because usually the color like isn't true, right? Like the only exception is that the color black have an accuracy, and the reason why it has is because if you look to like Africa, right, there are the indigenous people in North Africa are like the Amazigh, and then the sub-Saharan African, they are, well, sub-Saharan African, right? So the term sub-Saharan is like a race, right? But they are like divisions within the sub-Saharan race, right? If you go to like Southern Africa, we have like there is like a race called Capoids, who are then subdivided into like the Khoisan and like Sandawe, and the Khoisan are like the Khoi in the sun, right? And they're like the indigenous people of like South Africa and all of Southern Africa, right? And they're technically, and their skin tone is very like it's like very it's lighter than black, right? Some of them could be darker, but some of them very lighter, right? So the term black makes sense if you want to categorize the sub-Saharan race into Capoid and black. Though not all sub-Saharans are black, but that's the only color that still have utility. While the colors white and brown, those doesn't refer to races, because we have established that if they can define both Semites and Indo-Europeans as white, and then define Malays, Aboriginals, and other Indo-Europeans as brown, the term white and brown doesn't really make sense, because Indo-Europeans would be in both categories, even though the Indo-Europeans are more like other Indo-Europeans than other white or brown people.
Yeah. Oh man, you've got quite an in-depth knowledge on.
Thanks, I do appreciate
your geography and your race as well.
It is like my favorite topic that exists. I actually wrote an entire document about it, like a family tree about how all the different races are related to each other.
That's a really important thing to. Yeah, that's really important information in this day and age.
Thank you.
Shit. Hey, good luck to you, man. I better go, but yeah, good luck to you, man. Can you?
Do you have the Discord?
Put in your Discord, yeah.
So you.
I'll
you copy paste the Discord, right? So you have the link available, and then save it to a Word document, and then so make sure you do it before we go, so you still have my contact information.
Yeah, did you post it? I can't see it.
What?
Did you post it? It didn't come up.
Did you see the Discord link?
Nah, it didn't.
Okay, I'll try again.
You gonna send it again? Yeah.
Have you seen it?
No, it just says you're typing on the screen.
What the fuck? Well, we can give it a minute, and then and then when it's gone a minute, you can see if it's just slow. But have I sent you any messaging?
No, nothing on my screen.
Well, I do have a YouTube, because if you have my YouTube, right, I usually have my Discord on there, if that makes sense. You want?
Yeah, that'll work. Okay, good. Yeah.
I send you more YouTube instead.
Yeah, maybe just send me a link or something. See if something pops up.
Yeah, I'll do that, right? Here you go. I posted my YouTube right now. Does this work?
Ah, there you go.
You see it?
Yeah, that one popped up. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, sweet. Okay, cool. I better head off to work in a minute. Good to talk to you, man.
Make sure.
I'll add you on. Yeah. What's that?
Do you follow my YouTube channel? Yeah.
Yeah, that popped up.
Perfect.
Yeah. I'll go check that.
I have not added my Discord to my YouTube yet, but I will do it like today. So just checking a little bit later today, you'll probably find it. Perfect.
Cool. All right. No worries, man.
See ya.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was awesome.